I am the founder and CEO of Different Thinking, a boutique consulting firm that specializes in people, culture, and leadership strategies for growth for the innovation sector. I'm also the co-author of the Ethical Kaleidoscope. That's a book about the role of boards in corporate ethics. I'm an adjunct professor at the MBA program at Deakin University. I'm sitting on boards, and not less important, I have two amazing teenagers and a lovely husband that support me through the journey.
Lovely.
I started my career as organizational consultant in Israel in a small consulting firm, mainly worked in scaling up startups. And then I moved into a small startup, these days as part of Oracle, the global company. I was the 25th employee and started as recruiting manager, then headed the HR and grew the company globally. About 13 and a half years ago, I came to Melbourne to do my Ph.D. studies. I researched the Western companies that operate in China. I looked at how the differences in national culture and institutional environment influence strategic thinking and strategy in China. Then moved back into global roles in HR, in technology companies. And about a few years ago, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I've been heading HR in technology companies and generally global HR roles for so many years. Is this what I want to do for the rest of my career? And the answer was simply no. So I started thinking about, what my strengths are, what my passions are, what I really love doing, and made a decision that in 10, 15 years from now, what I want to have is really a career based on portfolios. So sitting on boards, doing some consulting, and giving back to the academia and the community. I went and I did my the company director's course, and after the company director course, I sort of realized that there is a problem. So what I did, I wrote a very short piece, nothing really smart or important, and I called it, "When does change management equals change the management?" And the whole idea was it's all about trust. So if the board doesn't trust personally the CEO or the executive team, then they should change the management. If they don't trust that professionally they can lead the company to its next strategic level, then they should change the management. But if there is both professional and personal trust, then they should totally support the transformation or change program that the top management is putting. And I received quite interesting responses. Luckily, the supporting responses were online, but the not supporting responses were via emails. And in other words, what some chairs and board members said, in other words, baby, you don't know what you're talking about. Boards, we do strategy, corporate governance, finance, compliance. We don't deal with those fluffy concepts of culture and ethics and trust, da-da-da. So I thought, oh, there is a real gap here. This is really a dangerous gap, because most companies that collapse because of ethics and management leadership culture. And here we have the board on one hand that is legally liable for whatever is happening in the organization. And most of them, I'm generalizing, but most of them come from the hardcore, finance and legals. Add to that, they are not on the floor on a regular basis, so they can't really know what's going on the floor. And hence the custodians of culture and ethics are often the HR departments. But, and here it's a tough, a strong generalization as well, but many of the HR professionals don't speak the right language that the board speak. And so this very important aspect of ethics and culture that companies, set companies to success or failure, is in a void. And that's why I decided to co-author and write the book about the role of boards in corporate ethics, and went through the journey of interviewing chairpersons in the US and here, and long weekends of work, because I did it in addition to being a chief human resources officer full-time job in a technology company. About 2 years ago, I think it's fair to say I had the toughest time of my life. In short, within 2 months, my appendix decided to spread its goodness all over the place. As I was just recovering, I lost my mom unexpectedly, and then my father-in-law. So in 2 months, I had a surgery, 2 losses, and then I found out that I had to do another surgery. And that was really a point of thinking, wow, you know, sometimes life shakes you. I've been shaken. It's time for me to follow my passion. And I decided to relaunch different thinking. I used different thinking when I did my PhD here and there for some consulting, but I then just kept the name of the company, and I relaunched different thinking about a year and a half ago, and went on a new and exciting journey. That's a very sensitive issue for me. As in primary school, I was top gun, like I was brilliant student, well ahead, got everything, but problems start as you know, as I go towards in middle school and towards high school, where your grades are upon your essay and how fast you write in exams, and not based on your knowledge. And so I was never good in essays. I always wrote everything in short, precise, to the point sentences. Couldn't write long essays. In exams I would swap numbers, swap letters, and teacher would refer to me as lazy. So they would tell, in teacher parents interview, they would say sentences like, you know, I know it all, I'm the smartest and the laziest. If I'll continue with this attitude in life, I'll never go anywhere. And I worked really hard. All my life I worked really hard, but you just couldn't see. Verbalizing, I was amazing, but when it came to writing on the paper, it wasn't exactly the same. And I remember every teacher and parents interview, we walk out, my father stands there and says, Zivit, I am not worried. You will see where those teacher will get in life and where you will get in life. You are so talented. Whatever you'll decide to do, you will excel and go way beyond all others. I am not worried. And when we go home, and I'll put my head down, and you know, I actually thought that there was something wrong with me. And he would say, sit there, I am not worried. And it made me become very intrinsic, and thinking that, you know, no matter how much effort I put in place, you know, no one appreciates it, and it was really tough for me. So then came the university, and all of a sudden I finished the first semester, and at the university it's all about your ability to think critically and to connect between concepts, and no one cares if you swap the letters in the exam or whatever. And all of a sudden I was topping the faculty, and you know, I finished my first semester with grades that I don't remember myself receiving before, except from primary school. And then I got a scholarship for excellence, and I basically studied both my first degree and second degree on excellence scholarship. I finished both my degrees magna cum laude, and only then, before I started my PhD, that I found out that I'm actually dyslexic. And we were laughing at it, like, look where I got with my dyslexia. You know, it's not funny. But then life repeated again as the kids grew up. In primary school, they were top guns, you know, and then we got to middle school and high school, and you know, they are not making enough effort and all those things. And in one of the teacher-parent interview, my son couldn't come with us, and so all the teachers were very brutally honest, and from one to another they all told us that we have a lazy kid that will not go anywhere. And the science teacher said to me that she has a proof for him being lazy. And by the way, I did receive his agreement to speak about it. And the proof was that there was a science exam for all the year level, and he failed. But before she brought the exam back, she took him a few days after the exam and examined him verbally, and verbally he did 100%. He was perfect. Conclusion: he's not mature enough, and he's lazy to understand that in exam he needs to put his knowledge on the paper. And that's where all of the sudden, like, I held my hands in my head and my head in my hands, and like I could not believe. And I looked at my husband and I said, "Oh my goodness, our two children are both dyslexic." And like in all this time, I was playing with the with the teachers, telling them to put more effort rather than understanding that they were exactly like me. Really felt bad about it. And so my husband took them to do the assessment. I didn't want to be involved. And of course, they're both dyslexic. And then the next day, the psychologist called me, and she was all laughing and saying, "Oh my goodness, you have made my day. For all those years, we learn about stealth dyslexia," which is the type of dyslexia that I have as well. But I've never had the opportunity to find it. And so I asked her what exactly it is, because I never bothered even to read what it is, and understood that it's when you have a very high IQ, you can't, you perform as average or just above average, but actually not at your highest, 1 to 3%. And I really felt bad about it, and I almost cried. And I said to her on the phone, "So what am I going to tell them, that they are screwed up because of me?" And she said, "Are you kidding me? Have you not read The Dyslexic Advantage? You have to buy this book, you read this book, and then you'll know what to tell them." So I bought the book, and I could not believe how I couldn't stop crying, to tell you the truth. I couldn't believe how all the pieces of my life came into one picture, of my childhood and my work. And I realized that actually all my success so far was because unconsciously I was playing and building my career using my dyslexic strengths. So with people that are not dyslexic, their attention goes to the details. But dyslexic people, their automatic pilot goes to the strategy and the big picture and the creative solution, and the ability to connect between dots and being interdisciplinary, or to take complex problems, make them simpler. And that's basically how I built my whole career. Always delegated the details to someone else, and I built the strategies and the programs, and looked at the visual and the body language and all that. So then what happened was that when I was, and that's going back to when I spoke about the toughest time of my life, when I was just going out of the hospital. My mom was in Israel in the hospital, and they thought she has back pain, but she actually died probably from internal bleeding, but they thought it's just back pain. She was in a lot of pain. And that was when Deakin University offered me to become an adjunct professor. And so I called my mom and I wanted to tell her that I'm a professor, and she couldn't even speak with me. She was in such a pain. And it was only 2-3 days before she passed away. And so my sister have told her that. And when I received the message that I lost my mom, I had to go to Israel. And when I landed in Israel, my two aunties just hugged me with excitement and called me professor. And I said, "How do you know?" And she said those were the only words that my mom said to them before she died. Can you imagine to yourself? Because all her life, all she heard is how lazy I am and how nothing will get out of me. And all of a sudden I'm a professor. And my father just stood there calm and said, "Zivit, what have I told you all these years? I was never worried," which is correct. Yeah. So when I decided that it's time for me to follow my passion, it was obvious what my passions are. I love innovation, research, people, and culture, and all what is going, in between them, and the ethics and all that. And what I basically did, I called friends and family globally that work in venture capital area and in startups, and who worked with me or who know me very well, and I said, all right, you know me, you know what I'm really good at. What should I do? And that's how I built my 4 initial products to offer to the market. And the only thing I haven't taken into consideration is that when you build your own business, you actually need to do a lot of sales and business development, which I've never done before, and it's not part of my skill set, was not part of my skill set, I should say. And so I found myself at the beginning really stepping out of my comfort zone on a regular basis, like every day, and challenging myself and making the most ridiculous and funny mistakes, but learning from them. I love learning and developing, so I fell in love in the journey. And then I started basically approaching everyone in my network, asking to catch up for coffee, to get advice, connections, and that's how I found my first client, which was a CEO that I actually approached in order to ask her if she can connect me with people, and she said, why won't you take a project with us? That was my first client. And as I had gained more and more clients, and I'm really lucky because most of my clients came to me via referrals, and I have some very good clients that recommending me, and it's really it's been a good journey with some bad experiences as well, but you learn from every experience. But as I was more and more involved in this evolving ecosystem in Australia of startups and innovation, I realized that I was able to shape my pitch much better. And I realized that I'm really answering a very important gap in the market. So, you can have the most amazing idea and or technology, but it's all about execution. If you can't execute it, it's worthless. And execution for me equals people plus culture plus leadership, and that's my niche. And that's what I really do. I basically took all what I was good at work and what I love doing, and opened a company for that. Last week, I co-founded another company with someone else, which is basically gonna work in a different market, but quite connected to what I'm doing, a different thinking. I am a great believer in mentorship. I am. Personally, throughout my career, I always asked for and had mentors, and I'm always mentoring others as well. I get a lot from mentoring. And so in every phase of my career, I have asked permission from people to mentor me. For example, now when I established Different Thinking, I have a mentor who established his company about 8 years ago and was very successful, so I've asked him to formally be my mentor. When I took on the first role as a chair in a non-for-profit, it was really scary and a very difficult time, so I formally had a mentor that helped, a chair, a wonderful woman who's a chair on the ASX as well, and who mentored me through the journey. So always I'm mentoring. Now I'm volunteering for service. Some of my work is coaching, but when I'm volunteering as a mentor, I do that as well. I also encourage people that I coach to mentor each other. So for example, I'm coaching in 3 different accelerators currently, but in 2 different accelerators there are complementary founders that come from the same industry, bring different strengths and experiences, and they are not going to compete. Their ideas are very different. And I basically spoke with each one of them and I said, look, I'm a great believer in mentorship, and as much as you both receive a lot of coaching through the accelerator, I think colleagues mentorship is something that you can learn from, not lessen. So I made a match. I'm a matchmaker of mentoring as well. As you can imagine, and I think I've mentioned it, I'm always following my passions and I'm always setting goals ahead. So looking forward is going to be continue working with the academia and contributing to any community. I love that part. Growing my career on boards, which is a long journey. And with my companies, currently both companies are based on my skills and experience, but eventually I'll want to grow them and to have people that, you know, to train people to have the same skills and continue growing the company. I have an online product as well that I'm working on currently, so it's all very exciting, very evolving. Yeah.